Hello and welcome to the show. The morning of September the 14th, 2022. Hello. Welcome to Morning Art Sessions with your host, PXB Art. That's me. As I mentioned before, I'm PXB Art. I'm an animator, illustrator, 3D artist. Currently with an unnamed sports entertainment company. And formerly with CBS Sports, formerly of Sling TV, Dish Network, right? I forget. Freelancing. I did a bunch of freelancing. But yeah, welcome. Welcome to this glorious Wednesday morning. Hello, everyone. We're over here sipping our morning coffee, enjoying each other's company. Hey, so hi. Thanks for joining me today on this art journey. We're not gonna spend too much time introing and stuff. We're just gonna go straight into drawing because I have to be at work in about 90 minutes. So, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and do that while we're, like, while I'm getting ready for work. Just a little warm up for work. Yeah, I probably should have done this before, but I'm gonna look for some music to stream. So yeah, hope everyone's having a good one. If you're watching live, if you're watching the on-demand thing, I appreciate you being here and joining me for a quick drawing session. And yeah, I've been trying to do these a bit more kind of pardon me, I'm just checking on my little options here. Yeah, I've been trying to do these smaller streams, just kind of more casual stuff because it's been busy past. I was gonna say it's been busy past like few months or past few weeks, but it's been a busy like 2 years. My volume's all the way down on my. But yeah, so I've been busy for like the past like 2 years, it seems. Yeah, just been doing a bunch of wrestling related stuff, as you know. So that's been going well. Yeah, just trying to do some more illustration stuff. I haven't really been doing a bunch other than my book, which is now on itch.io. Search for me on there, PXB Art. You know, if you're familiar with that site at all, you can go there, buy my art book, which has a bunch of stuff that I cannot share on stream or any other social media platform, as it will get me banned on there again. What was I gonna say? But yeah, I've been busy doing animation stuff, motion graphic stuff, things I can talk about. That I've worked on in the past few months. I worked on NXT Worlds Collide and NXT Heatwave. I was like in charge of the promos there. So if you've seen those promos on air, also did a promo for a Lights Out match on NXT. So that's been fun. Yeah, lots of creativity and lots of good stuff going there. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe to Peacock. But that being said, now's a good time for a friendly reminder that all views and opinions expressed on this stream are strictly my own and not reflective of my employers, Wrestling Entertainment, or any other freelance clients that I may have. They are strictly my own, and they are not representative of their opinions, thoughts, or policies, or anything like that. So, that being said, let's go Rangers. Thor Love and Thunder was okay, and that's not the official stance of anyone at the day job, and that's just my opinion. That Thor Ragnarok was pretty good. Thor Love and Thunder was okay. It's like that. Like I mentioned this because let's just go to the art. trying Wolverine. Now that we were talking Marvel stuff. Wolverine! Yeah, let's update that text right there. Rah! There you go. Yeah, pardon me, I'm just looking for some.
Now I know that the journey's been hard, it's been long, but as long as you're here,
Some music for
that'll keep you strong. Cause you know they say when times get rough, that's when diamonds shine. I'm coming in my prime. Whoa, taking off, let it go.
Yeah, we'll talk Thor and MCU stuff in a sec. Okay, so let's, we got a lo-fi playlist going. Don't want it to be too loud because I don't want it to overpower me. Okay. Hey, so what were we talking about? So Thor: Love and Thunder. I finally got around to watching it last night, and it's alright. It was okay. I went into that movie thinking, yeah, this is gonna suck. Cause like that was kind of like the scuttlebutt I kept hearing, right? Is that like, oh yeah, this movie not great. But I thought it was fine. Thor Ragnarok, I actually like. It's like, you know, it's like one of those Marvel movies that you either love it or you hate it. If you were like not down with Ragnarok, you're gonna hate Love and Thunder, which I know a lot of people like did not like Ragnarok, but most people that I know, especially people who are not like comic book people, I'd say, they thought Ragnarok was fun, and I agree. It is a fun movie. Alright, so let's merge these. Add a mask. And clear that mask. Forget that. Yeah, I'm like one of those people that did like it. That being said, like, yeah, if you didn't like Thor Ragnarok, you're gonna hate Love and Thunder. And Love and Thunder I thought was okay. My main criticism of it is that it should have just been a Jane Foster movie instead of, like, Thor has had kind of like a, like, you've seen his character arc over and over and over and over again ad nauseum. Throughout Thor's 1, 2, and 3, all the Avengers films. So like there wasn't really much for like Thor, Chris Hemsworth to do in this movie, but he was just kind of there because like, oh yeah, his name is on the poster. And when the movie starts, we're gonna kind of go into spoiler territory here. I'm gonna try to avoid going too deep, but you know, I'll give a little bit of a warning once I kind of start talking about like stuff that I have to say about the end. Because like for the most part, like I thought the movie was okay. The movie wasn't bad. Its main, like my main problem with it, or like my main critique of it is there's like some sort of mandate in there that, oh hey, like every single scene you do has to begin with a joke and it needs to end with a joke, no matter what the scene is. You need to have some sort of, like, the characters like comment on how silly things are, or just say something completely out of left field, and then we're gonna end everything on a laugh, which sometimes worked, but very often did not work at all. And those jokes and like those bits, you could completely cut out of the movie and it would be better for it. And it, like, you know, it wouldn't affect what's actually going on in the plot, like, at all. That's my main critique of the movie. And the only part of the movie that I really had an issue with was the end, and I'll touch on that later. And I'll give a little warning about that in case you want to avoid spoilers and watch. Is it worth watching? Sure. Like, I saw it on Disney Plus. I'm glad I did not pay additional money to see it. I think I probably would have been a lot more sour on it if I saw it in a movie theater. I think it's like the first Marvel movie in a long time that I had not seen in a theater. And I saw Eternals, man. Eternals is a fucking... that's a garbage film. Like, that's a bad film. And not for the reasons that angry dudes on the internet say. It's a bad film because of pacing problems and whatnot. But anyway. So Thor, Love and Thunder. I keep on wanting to say Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, so the basic setup is, oh hey, they're adapting the Gore the God Butcher storyline from Jason Aaron's run on Thor. I think his book was just called Thor. I don't remember if it was called like the Mighty. I don't think it was called the. At first, it wasn't called like any. I think it was just Thor. I don't know if it had like Immortal Thor, or I think it was just adjectiveless Thor. And then his run eventually became the Mighty Thor. Once protagonists changed, so they're kind of like covering like two story arcs here, or like not really covering, but adapting is the better word. Because like, yeah, what they ultimately end up doing are just so, it's just so different from the comic that it's like, you know, it would be a misnomer to be like, oh yeah, they're doing this story arc. Or, so yeah, so the basic rundown is Christian Bale is Gore, the God Butcher, who is a disgruntled apostle or disciple or whatever of a god, of a alien god that gets like, you know, as he's like, oh yeah, he gets a little pissy, not a little pissy, but like, you know, he gets mad at his gods for failing him, for failing to save his daughter. And then when he goes to talk to the god that he's been worshipping about it, to be like, hey man, I spent my whole life worshipping you.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Can't you help me out? The guy was just like, no, F you, dude. Which is pretty fucked up. So understandably, Gore becomes like F those gods and decides to go around the universe and murdering anyone that is considered divine or has like some sort of like anybody worshiping them, which puts him in direct conflict with our protagonist, Thor, who is the god of thunder. And if you haven't read Jason Aaron's Thor, I can't vouch for like the later half of his run, because I'm not saying it was bad or anything. I'm not saying like, oh, this is valuable. I'm not saying anything like that. I just haven't read it. If you look up his run, I think it was like under like the all different Marvel banner, like before Secret Wars and whatnot, before they had their giant kind of world reset a few years ago. It was around the time that they're doing like all new X-Men. So I think when it started, like, so around like 2016, 2015. And I'm not saying like, oh, the later half of his run sucks, so I can't vouch for it. Like, no, I just can't vouch for it because I just haven't read it. And that's only because like collecting comics on weekly is kind of expensive, yo. And that's how much like I actually enjoyed his run. I was actually buying it weekly. I was buying it on Comixology, like, or not weekly, but monthly. I was actually buying the singles instead of just buying the trade paperback. So that's how much I can vouch for that run. Because the interesting thing about that comic is that it actually deals with Thor in 3 timelines. It has like a story of Thor, like, that takes place in the past, like during Vikings days, where he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm like a debaucherous kind of god of thunder that's like, you know, I'm just over here hanging out with my Viking bros, and they're like, you know, doing their Viking thing, and I'm glad to have them worship me, and blah blah blah, and like, you know, and like sleep around and do X, Y, and Z, whatever. Anyway, I should put a little bit more light in Logan's face here. So it has like that storyline going. At the same time, it has like current day Thor, who's like a member of the Avengers, where he's like investigating Gore, the God Butcher. He's just like, hey, someone's going around the universe and going to different planets and murdering, like, you know, because God, in the sense of Marvel Universe, like the gods with lowercase g, not because the God of Marvel Universe is Jack Kirby, according to an issue of Fantastic Four. He's kind of like the omnipotent, kind of like what you would consider the Judeo-Christian God, is Jack Kirby. Or takes the form of Jack Kirby. But anyway. So the gods, in the Marvel sense, are like, you know, superpowered beings. They're like Thor. They're like, you know, they have long lifespans, but they can be killed. Like, you can kill Thor. Well, I can't kill. Like, you personally probably can't kill Thor, but you know, if you know, it's possible to kill Thor. Like Ultron could kill Thor, or something, right? Anyway. I took a little bit of a Twitter poll saying like, hey, which version of Wolverine do you guys prefer? And then the brown suit won, so that was fun. So anyway, back to Thor. So present day Thor. So the Jason Aaron comic run, like, it deals with the Thor from the past, is telling a story featuring Thor from the past, Thor from the present, who's like a member of the Avengers, and he's currently investigating Gore the God Butcher. He's investigating like who's going around and killing all these gods. And then it deals with Thor in the far future, who's King Thor. It's like hundreds, if not thousands, of years in the future, where Odin is no longer around. Thor is the king of Asgard, and in that, like, he kind of remarks that, like, oh yeah, like, I was a member of this team called the Avengers once on Earth, but in this span of, like, when you consider my immortality or long lifespan, like, it was just like such a small portion of my life that it didn't really register. Which, to me, that always got me. I was just like, yeah, like, as a comics reader, and, like, someone who's been reading comics for ever since I was a kid, like, you kind of, when you think of, like, your favorite comic fictional characters or whatever, it's always in the sense of, like, okay, yeah, this is their prime. They're telling stories, like, like, this is, like, the most important time of this fictional character's life, is the time that I'm reading a story about. Like, Thor being like, oh, have at the Ultron, like that kind of Thor with the cap and the cape and whatever, being part of the Avengers. Like, that's like, you think, like, oh yeah, this is, like, what Thor, like, this is, like, the most noteworthy part of this character's history. But, like, King Thor, who's way in the future, he's just kind of like, yeah, that was just a footnote. Out of everything else I've done in my life, like, yeah, it's just a footnote in my life, and I don't really remember or particularly care for it much. And in that timeline, he's kind of like, yeah, I remember dispatching Gore, but, like, but he's still kind of around or whatever. So you have, like, these three concurrent stories going on, and they eventually, they're through some, like, time travel shenanigans. They all, like, you have past, present, and future Thor kind of having to team up and fight Gore, God Butcher, and, like, eventually it all culminates into I think there's a crossover called Original Sin, where some shit comes out, and ultimately Thor decides, hey, actually, maybe I am not as good of a guy as I thought I was. I am not worthy. Like, something happens, like, Gore whispers something to him, and he'd be like, yeah. And then Thor loses his powers and becomes, like, a skinny guy. Base level shading. Let's add a second level of shading. We're duplicating this. We're gonna fill it all the way in so we see everything. Cool. And we're gonna make it a little bit more purpley, a little darker. Set this to multiply as well. So then we can combine these two. Do that. Okay, cool. Just gonna go in and start filling in. Oh yeah, so it eventually culminates into, like, yeah, Thor kind of having a moment of crisis of being like, oh yeah, maybe Gore was kind of right about me and the gods in general, where, we don't really do shit for the people that are like worshiping us. We kind of take advantage of them, and it kind of provokes like like a sort of thought experiment of like oh, this isn't just some dude that's just like, aha, I want power for myself, ha ha ha. Like some cartoon. He's like, he has a legitimate gripe of people that hold them, of beings that hold themselves up again over people and expect to be treated well because of it, but then ultimately don't do anything for the people who they want all that from. So it leads to a crisis of conscience with Thor, and somehow he loses his thunder. So Mjolnir needs a new champion, and eventually finds its way to Jane Foster, who is dying of who's always traditionally been Thor's girlfriend. And yeah, gives her a power up, and she becomes Thor, the mighty Thor. And at this point I had already kind of dipped from the comic because again, I was like buying it monthly, and it's expensive to keep up. So at this point I'd kind of stopped following Western comics in general, but I've always meant to pick up the completed collection, which I think is available. Should be available. I think there's a nice healthy omnibus. But yeah, I've always meant to go back and check that out. So that being said, so the movie has nothing to do with, it's superficially about that as well. It's about like Thor, who is a disgruntled worshiper of space god. His daughter gets killed, dies of famine or whatever. He comes face to face with the god that he's been worshiping, and he doesn't seem to care. So he's just like, you know what? I wasted my life worshiping you. He gets the hand. He comes into possession of the Necro Sword, who is a weapon that can kill divine beings. So he starts doing that too, going around the universe and starts killing dudes, killing fools. Dun, dun, dun. Alright, so let's give it like a bit of a light color. So in the movie, he goes on a killing spree. A lot of it happens off camera. And yeah, so that puts him in direct conflict with Thor, our protagonist, who has been kind of going through the motions of life. All his kind of feel-good character building that you got from Avengers Endgame seems to like not really take hold anymore. So that looks a little freaky. He just looks like he's wearing short shorts. Let's do like soft light. Let's merge these. Put a mask. And use this very sparingly. So yeah, so I think the Thor movie has a lot, like, you know, I think it has a lot good going for it. Like, you know, it's, the story is entertaining enough. Jane Foster as Thor, like, you know, that happens in this movie too. It's kind of like a loose adaptation of that. It's pretty cool, but then it fumbles in a few spots. Like, there's a lot of, like, you know, there's a lot of meat to that story, and it kind of, like, if you look at it from face value, it's about Thor, who's kind of like, yeah, he's kind of off to the side and says like, hey, all the character development that happened to me in the last movie, let's just forget it for the sake of this one. But I am kind of going through the motions in life because I don't really have anything to live for other than fighting. And like, you know, and it, like, the people around him are kind of like, you know, who happen to be the Guardians of the Galaxy, are just kind of like, okay, like, yeah, it is affecting you. You should go away. They kind of like, you know, they don't like having him around, which is a pretty funny thing. But yeah, he kind of goes through the motions of life, and he's just like, yeah, there's nothing really. I don't really have love in my life. I'm missing love, you know, because that's in the title of the movie is Love and Thunder. He's got the thunder, but he's missing the love because it goes into detail of how, like, yeah, like, you know, because Jane Foster was not in Thor 3, despite being a huge part of Thor's 1 and 2. I guess Natalie Portman at the time decided, I don't want to do this for forever, and like, opted out of those movies specifically. I mean, they use archive footage of her, but like, yeah, it's. But by that time, she's kind of like, I'm out. But then the Disney dump truck of money shows up, and you don't say no to the Disney dump truck. So she's back for this one. There. Let's do like a blue, like a dark purple. Switch this to like an overlay. Around the opacity there. Maybe it's like a yellow. Yeah, that looks better. What if it was like a red? Maybe this is more like a red. Yeah. So Thor decides, hey, I'm missing love from my life. But then love shows up because Jane Foster's back. And they team up to fight Gore the God Butcher. And like, you know, the story is about like, okay, like it felt more like a Jane story because like it was actually about her. She's the one that actually has an arc. Thor doesn't really have an arc in this movie because he just kind of starts off like, yeah, I just fight because like, you know, that's where I'm needed the most, and you know, I don't really have love in my life. But then they kind of ignore that for like most of the movie, and then at the end they kind of like try to shoehorn some shit for him. But for the most part, he doesn't really change or have any development in the movie. The movie never stops reminding you that Thor is kind of a dummy. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the point where I'm kind of like, I kind of like the movie never stops reminding you, like, oh yeah, Thor, he's a dum dum. Kind of like the other way. Yeah. Expand it out a bit more. Rah. Add some glowy bits to the top here. Let's change that to add glow. Let's grab some of these really soft brushes. Gonna zoom in here. So yes, Thor doesn't really have an arc, but Jane does. She kind of goes from like, oh hey, yeah, I am sick with this cancer. The hammer is seemingly curing me, and ultimately she decides like, hey, for the greater good, I'm gonna kind of continue doing the superhero thing. Even if it kills me. And ultimately that's what happens. It's like, you end up, we're diving into spoilers now. Spoilers for the end of Thor Love and Thunder. So yeah, she just dies at the end. And I'm just like, dude, you introduced this potentially cool character. The story should have actually been about her, honestly, and then she just dies at the end. After they fight the bad guy, because I guess they do all this stuff and they're like, yeah, ultimately, like they win, but then using the Thor powers drains Jane's mortal body. So like as soon as she stops being Thor, because she has to smash the hammer in order to win the battle, and she loses her powers, which she could have survived it if she didn't have the cancer, but it made her every time she's using the hammer, it keeps her alive while she's using the hammer, but when she stops using it, it results in her body not being able to fight off the cancer. So after exerting herself, that she gets movie-itis and dies right there in Thor's arms and fades into gold dust. Which I'm like, okay, yeah, not the direction. I thought you were setting up this cool character to kind of take over for Hemsworth when he's done playing Thor. I thought that's what they were setting up, but no, she just dies by the end. In the comic, I believe she eventually does stop being Thor, but she becomes the new Valkyrie or something. Yeah, it was just if you take that surface level, it's not a bad story. It's about it's a pretty decent action movie. The fight that they do with Gore, in the Shadow Realm, the film turns completely black and white. And it's not just they're oh yeah, we just desaturated everything and whatever. It looks deep, it looks rich, it looks gorgeous with HDR. That part of the movie, I'm just this looks fucking great. The part where they're completely black and white, the contrast on everyone is perfect. You get nice deep range of values there, everything from bright white to medium, all the medium grays to dark thing. It looks rich, it looks good. And the thing I liked about it is whenever Jane grabbed her hammer and she did the lightning thing, it emanated color because it was producing light. So you'd see a little hint, not, it's not if you're watching Pleasantville or something where they beat you over the head oh, this thing has color, or everything's black and white but the lips are a bright red. No, it's subtle, and if you're not really paying attention to it, you could miss it. And during this whole thing, Thor's eyes are blue, Gore's eyes are gold, yellow, whatever. Jane's hands are blue, or they have color to them, and it's neat. And that it's subtle color. It's not something that's hitting you over the head with. But yeah, but on its surface, yeah, it's a decent movie. But then it becomes very obvious when you watch this that, like, Taika Waititi has some sort of disdain for these characters, or like the concept of superhero movies in general, which, like, it's an understandable disdain. Like, whatever. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh yeah, oh, this person, like, the directors for this, like, they all need to be like super duper fans or whatever. Like, I'm not one of those people either. But it is very obvious that, like, he has a sort of, I would say disdain, but like not even a disdain, but like he kind of has like the need to be like to squeeze in the commentary, or like to kind of approach this from like the angle of like superhero movies are silly, they're absurd, they deserve to be poked fun at, poked, like, they deserve to, like, have holes poked through them left and right, and they deserve to be, like, kind of called out for all their silly eccentricities. Video pause. Continue watching. Yes, I will continue watching. So he approaches everything like from that angle, and when you consider it like that, it makes sense, because like every single scene in that movie it's all about, like, yeah, we're just gonna make fun of these characters, we're gonna make fun of the situation, we're just gonna make fun of the dialogue that's usually in these things, because it's all silly, it's all whatever. Which, on its surface, like, I'm not opposed to that. Like, I'm of the camp that, like, oh yeah, like, these movies are absurd and silly and whatever. Like, I had someone tell me the other, like, I responded to like a thing online where someone's like, the face you make when someone tells you Dragon Ball Z is a kid's thing. Where they kind of, like, try to be like, no, Dragon Ball Z is like for adults and it's cool and it's violent and whatever. And, like, I told that person, like, the Dragon Ball Z, it's a kid's show. Dragon Ball Z, and, like, and take this from someone who's been a Dragon Ball fan since the freaking early to mid 90s. I've watched everything from Dragon Ball, all of Z, all of original Dragon Ball, all GT, all Super, all the movies, almost every single video game. I went out and purchased all the Dragon boxes. I had like a whole little, if you'll indulge me for a second. So, I have a whole little Dragon Ball shelf up here. So take it from me when I say Dragon Ball is absolutely a kid's show. It's a show that was, or a manga that was printed in a magazine called Shonen Jump, which really means, it's literally, Shonen means for young boys. And that's how all the stories and all this stuff is going to be written, with that kind of mindset in mind. That, like, oh hey, this is meant to be entertaining for children. If you're like an adult and can get something out of it, cool. But, like, primarily this is for children. And it's going to be dealing with children's stuff, or like things that kids find cool. I think a lot of people would benefit from the realization of like, yeah, like, you know, that's okay. It's okay to fucking approach something and be like, yeah, this is a thing for kids. Yeah, a lot of people would benefit from like, you know, hearing that and just being like, it's okay to like something like, you know, not everything needs to be such fucking super serious business, whatever. You can like things that are meant for kids, and that's fine. Don't sweat it. That being said, Taika Waititi kind of like, you know, that's the kind of movie that he made, is like kind of being like, yeah, this is this comic book movie, so like it's all for kids, but yet grown men and women are watching these, so we're gonna poke fun at them for all of this and just kind of point out how absurd everything is, which you ain't wrong. Just to overlay. Get rid of some of this stuff here. And like, you know, I assume that's like probably like the only way like Taika can have fun with this at all, is with the materials, to be like, yeah, like, you know, it's silly like that. And he points out like every scene has a joke about how silly this is. It has like screaming goats or people talking about like, you know, going off on a tangent. like one example, there's a part you've probably seen the screen capture on the internet where there's like a little kid that reaches out the door and you just see kind of like his floating head. Like there's a scene in the movie where like a bunch of children get kidnapped, but then like one of them like prays, so like Thor being a god, the head just kind of pops up and it's just floating there. You see just like a floating head in a room being like, Thor, we need your help. And then he's like, Astrid, is that you? Astrid, son of Heimdall. He's like, yeah, it's me, but I go by the name Axel now because Astrid kind of sounds girly. No, but Astrid is a proud Viking name that your father gave you. No, but I like Axel from Guns N' Roses. But your name is Astrid. No, it's Axel. Astrid. No, Axel. Astrid. Axel. And then they just kind of go back and forth of that for like a solid minute, culminating in like being like Astrid, Axel, and then Korg is like, asshole? And then the joke ends and then the scene actually proceeds. So if they were to like just it'd be funnier if it was just like a throwaway line that was just kind of like in there, but then like it becomes like it becomes like the centerpiece of the scene, which ultimately like you could write the same scene and get the same effect by just cutting out that jokey part altogether. Like the scene loses nothing if you cut that bit of dialogue out. This freaking like almost like 30 to 60-second dialogue of them arguing about like, oh, what should they refer to this kid as? And like, ultimately it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't. They should just name the kid Axel. Like that should have just been the character's name from the beginning. They had to make it a bit. They had to make it a thing. And like if they cut that from the scene, like the scene wouldn't have suffered. It didn't really need it. And the movie's full of examples like that where they're like, oh yeah, moment. Oh yeah, but now we're gonna have like 30 seconds of dialogue about like these screaming goats again. But to me, like, yeah, the biggest, like, a lot of people, and also, like, I think a lot of people are going to take issue with, like, the final battle with, like, Thor and his shadow demons. Like, Thor empowers all the kidnapped children with the power of Thor. So they all get, like, lightning and whatever powers so they can help with the final battle. And a lot of people think that's silly, but like I looked at that, I was like, yeah, that's fun. That's like a fun little whatever. Leads to like a bunch of funny shots of like children just being like, rah! And like beating up things. Although I think it would have been hilarious if like at some point in the final battle, Gore turns the tables on Thor and like he's beating him up. Thor is like on the ground like oh man, like I'm getting beat up. They should have had a cut to like all the children that are still fighting the shadow demons also losing and just getting like held down and just being beat up or something. That would have been hilarious, but you can't do that in a Disney movie, alas. but then I heard like all those children that were featured in that scene happen to be like children of like producers and actors and whatever. So I'm just like, that makes it a little less special. Wah, wah. Can't we just have anything nice and pure anymore instead of nepotism? Also, Matt Damon is back along with Luke Hemsworth as like the fake Loki and Thor, which is fine. I also don't feel like drawing a background, so white it is. Hey Stephen Jace, how's it going? I'm glad this looks fun. Sorry for being so negative about Marvel movies. I would say something along the lines of like, I'm usually not negative on things, but no, I kind of complain about things a lot. I'm doing alright, just kind of getting ready for work, just warming up by doing some drawing stuff, putting the finishing touches on this. And then I have to be at work in about, what time is it now? You have to sign into work in about like 20 minutes. So we're actually going to wrap up soon. But yeah, but I appreciate you coming to hang out. But yeah, we're talking about Thor Ragnarok. I just, not Ragnarok, Love and Thunder. I just watched it on, came out on Disney Plus last week, and I finally got around to watching it last night, because I hadn't seen it when it came out in theaters. Yeah, my ultimate judgment is that, like, it was alright. I like it better than most people that I, like, most of my circle seems to, like, hate that movie. They're like, it's like too silly, it's too jokey, whatever, which I agree, it's very silly and jokey, but I think it's underneath there is a solid movie in there. It's just being held back by like kind of too many jokes and like too many, like, it's not that I don't like jokes, because like I like the She-Hulk show. The She-Hulk show is like hilarious and I think it's great, but I think it's just kind of the jokes that are made in Love and Thunder are kind of too, like, I guess they kind of are at the expense where like the butt of the joke is kind of like the audience and the genre of film itself. Yeah, that's what I think. Like, yeah, it was a fun movie. I'm glad I watched it. Super glad I didn't like pay for like a movie ticket price for it, but like, I think I would have paid for it. Like, I would have gone to see it in theaters, but over the summer I was just a little busy, and then eventually it stopped being in theaters. Yeah, my only real issue with it was like the final scene with and this is what I've been kind of like alluding to, like all stream, like the scene with the little girl at the end, where all of a sudden Thor is put in charge of a kid that he's had no interaction with whatsoever throughout the whole movie, and it's supposed to be like this kind of like emotional payoff that isn't really earned in any meaningful way. And and then it's supposed to be this feel-good moment, and I'm just like, who is this person? Why does she have eye beams? And why does she have the hammer? But other than that, like, yeah, I enjoyed it. Ultimately, I think it kind of, if you liked Thor Ragnarok, which I did, I think you'll like this one. You'll like the new one. Like a lot of people that I know that didn't care for Ragnarok didn't really care for this one. Yeah, it could have been darker. Like, yeah, the story could have been darker because like like on its surface, like the story actually deals with themes that like other fiction would deem kind of heavy and kind of dark. Like, you know, it's very existential, kind of like, because Gore's whole deal is, oh hey, I pray to the gods and I need help, but they've never answered me. But all of a sudden he's put in a position where he's like, well, I can make them pay for what they've done or what they didn't do for me. And that in and of itself is like that's very dark subject matter. But like, you know, it's played for laughs. And like, there's seemingly like a mandate in there that like every scene needs to begin with a joke and it needs to end with them saying like something absurd or silly, and then the character just being like, huh, and just moving on. No matter what the scene was, at least for like the first 2 acts or like first like 75% of the movie. Yeah, so what else do I want to? I might add like a noise layer here. I already did some halftone stuff. Let's solo this layer. Let's go to render Perlin noise. Make it real small. Smaller than that. Maybe let's go for 1.25. That's a little too small. Maybe go 2. Okay, that's fine. Up that up. Up that a little bit. This kind of noise layer. Let's set that to overlay and play with the opacity a little bit. That way we add a nice little bit of texture there. Yeah, good to get away from negative for a bit. So what kind of movies do you like? Do you like what are your favorite MCU, DC, or genre movies? Over here we are we stand the MCU, I guess, to use like the kind of words that the kids use nowadays. We stand like the MCU. I'm pretty cool with DC. We're very big Dragon Ball and Sonic fandom here. Into everything, whatever seems entertaining. Nice, that's a good policy. Let's see, let's set this to screen. We're just going to duplicate this, put it all the way at the bottom, bottom here, right above our white layer. So remember, kids, if you are working in Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop, always be sure to label your label your layers, because that will bite you in the ass. Do as I say, not as I do. Name your layers. That will come in handy. but I'll do that later once I'm off stream. Alright, so we got our Wolverine here. He's yelling about stuff. Let's go. I'll just name this something so I know what it is. White base, because that is my base. Let's go behind that. We're just gonna add some like onomatopoeia here. We got the other day. Nice. So you do motion graphics and animation. Yeah, I just started working at unnamed sports entertainment company that we have a very strict social media policy about. That we cannot talk too much about the job on social media. But yeah, I started working there in March. No, not March. In April of this year. And yeah, it's been a good experience so far. I like it. It's definitely one of the cooler places I've worked. Before working there, I spent about 10 years at CBS Sports, doing motion graphics and animation, 3D stuff, and also freelancing all around. But yeah, WWE has been very cool, very neat. Okay, ESPN? No, nice. Yeah, I know one of my senior designers there, his guy I work with a lot, he worked at ESPN as well. You know, he's been with WWE for about a year at this point, or 2 years. So I don't know how long ago he was at ESPN. But I knew a few people also at CBS as well who came from ESPN. Yeah, but WWE it worked the same way, as you mentioned. I was kind of just doing my thing. I had a recruiter reach out to me, and they're like, "Oh, hey, would you be interested working here?" And I had actually interviewed at XFL about a year or two ago. Actually, not yet. Whenever that was, I think it was 2018, 2019, right before the pandemic went down. Kind of one of my sticking points for not taking the job at that time was, hey, telling them hey, I'm from New York, live in Queens. Is remote work a possibility, at least for a few days a week? To which they told me at the time, no. So I was like, all right, cool. Thanks for letting me know. But I'll pass at this time. And then that was late 2019. And then a few months later, everyone started working from home. And no. When they reached out to me again, they're like, yeah, remote work is not a problem. Yeah. A lot of cross-pollination between Connecticut and New York. I interviewed with NBC Sports a few times, and I've been to that campus at least twice talking about jobs, but both times salary and kind of hours didn't make sense. So, and plus they're down the road from my office now, so it's kind of cool to pass by there. Yeah, it's all kind of a big between NBC Sports, CBS, ABC, and WWE. It's all the same people kind of crossing paths. So I was gonna say one of the main critiques I always get, or feedback, not even really from workers, it's like from like my mom. She's always like, "Oh hey, you like to draw a lot, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then she always tells me, "Why does your handwriting suck?" Which I never have a good answer. Typography isn't really my thing. But, you know. Hopefully, like, you know, I keep things animating and moving so no one notices. But yeah, the pandemic, like, yeah, I think it's, like, you know, obviously sucked for a myriad of reasons, but I think one of the benefits, I think, at least professionally for me, is that it kind of opened up a lot of these companies, because it's not just WWE and like CBS, like two places I worked at primarily. It kind of opened them up their eyes to the idea of like, oh yeah, these dudes, these animators can work remotely. But like, you know, it opened me up to like a lot of freelance work too. What if I did this? Or the other way. Yeah, because like in 2020, like animation work was just like my schedule never cleared up. Like I kind of assumed that I was just like, oh, a lot of people at my company at the beginning of 20 or like mid 2020 were like we're like downscaling and kind of laying people off. But then I noticed like me and my department, we did not slow down at all. There became like such a huge dependency on motion graphics and animation during that time because they couldn't shoot anything. So it became with CBS Sports, it became a lot of like original productions, documentaries, stuff like that, content to fill the air. And like, you know, since you can't shoot people, or if you can shoot people, they're all remote, and you need a way to pretty it up. Motion graphics and animation became kind of like the centerpiece for a lot of that. And yeah, like my work never slowed down. I never faced a period during all that time of being like, oh hey, like I don't have anything to do. And in fact, I started taking on like more, like I did freelance like every once in a while, but like once things went kind of fully remote, I was taking on freelance projects like instead of just like once a month or once every other month. It was like every week I had like a new project line up for me outside of my day job, and yeah, things got real busy. Yeah, especially tough again being in the Northeast, but now that's not a big deal. Yeah, yeah. So my arrangement right now is that I go into the office once or twice a week, depending on the week, to go work on live shows and kind of take on things as they arise. With WWE, there are two live shows during the week, actually three. Uh, Monday Night Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. So I'm usually there on days that they have a live show to, you know, to work there. So in case there is any sort of like, you know, emergency or whatever, last minute need or whatever, like, you know, I'm right there, so producers can get me reliably, and you know I can put out whatever they need. And other days, like, I'm working on other stuff that's pretty neat as well. Do a lot of promo work. Doing some show packaging soon. Standard motion graphics stuff for like a network, or for like a company that has a network's worth of work to go around. And today is the 14th. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign that. And we're gonna full screen this bad boy here. Wolverine. There you go. Snicked, motherfucker. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and save this, and I'll post this onto the Instagram, which is now public again. So be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever tickles your fancy. You can find me on most social media channels at PXBArt, same name that I use here. So be sure to check me out there. What time is it? It's 9:50. Yeah, I need to go because I also need to use the bathroom before I sign in. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me today on this journey. Yeah, this actually took me a little longer than I thought, because when I started the stream, I already had my flat colors laid out, and I was like, hey, it's gonna be like a 10-minute stream as I do like the cell shading and whatever. But then we were able to extend it out to like a solid 90 minutes. Thank you for joining me, Steven. Be sure to hit subscribe. And yeah, check me out so you get notifications on whenever I go live, which I'm trying to do it more often. I might stream tonight, do some video game stuff. I need to finish Yakuza 6 because they just announced Yakuza 8, or which they're calling it Like a Dragon now. They are joining they are uniting the two the titles, because in Japan it's always been Like a Dragon, and when it came over here in the West, they just called the series Yakuza. But I guess they're calling it Like a Dragon now, just to kind of make things match up a bit more. But either way, I am 2 games behind. I just started Yakuza. I say I just started Yakuza 6, but I started my playthrough like about 3 months ago, and then haven't gone back to it. I've just been busy. But yeah, I'm gonna try to play that tonight. So be sure to hit subscribe so you get the notification when I go live. Yeah, check me out, social media. Links are below. Check out my merch shop, society6.com/pxb_art. Or if you'd like to support me in a more direct way, I have a coffee page, ko-fi.com/pxbart, where you can buy me a coffee for $3 in increments of $3. That's how it works. $3 donors get a high-res digital copy of their choice of any piece that I have done here on the stream, or most stuff that I have posted on my Instagram. Just be sure to let me know which one you want, and I'll make that work. So you can have a high-res version for phone wallpapers, desktop wallpapers, for whatever reason. And if you want, I'll include a Clip Studio, Paint, or Photoshop file with the layers and stuff, so you can see how things are put together. $6 donors get a mini print, 4x6 physical mini print if you are in the United States. Again, let me know which piece you want from here or my Instagram, and I will mail you a physical mini print for your collection as a thank you for buying me a copy, for showing your support. Also, don't forget to check out itch.io, PXBArt. I have my first art book, digital art book, up there of work that I cannot post on any social media channel or here without getting banned. It's has a bunch of life drawing and anatomy stuff that I've done over the years and haven't really been able to post anywhere due to content policies of various social media platforms because they don't like it. But it's there. It's $15. Comes with like 50 drawings, 50 illustrations in there, high res, ebook format, so it plays nicely with your iPad or Kindle or whatever. So if you'd like to support me that way, it's there. Again, none of these are necessary or no mandatory. Stream is always free. So, but if you'd like to support, this is what the support is deeply appreciated. So that is all of my shilling for today. Thank you very much, and have a good day, good rest of your day, and I'll see you all real soon. Take care. See ya. Bye.